I thought it was time, because there's a lot going on, to go over the alternative media. Now, the alternative media, which came out of the very early, then called conspiracy sites on the internet, but it eventually exploded and in some or many cases imploded as the cabal miscalculated the desire of the people to seek truth by this new avenue. It backfired the internet spectacularly. It was supposed to be a data collection and a mapping. It ended up being reversed on them. Now, early on with the alternative media, on the internet in its rawest form, for those who were looking on certain sites, there was a plethora of classified, formerly classified information that was put out by whistleblowers, and also some put out by the cabal. Now, the whistleblowers was to finally release the stuff they knew onto a waiting public, instead of the previous tactic of wrapping it all up into fictional novels. And the cabal put stuff out to test the public reaction, assess it, and then dictate their future policies depending on the results. But early on, it was an exciting time for those who knew this world was wrong and there was nothing normal about anything. Those that were a part of it then delved into a plethora of once hidden knowledge, and we all devoured it greedily at the time. We couldn't get enough of it. Now, it was a case of, oh my God, I'm not the only outcast in society, particularly on early on. No one imagined that there was so many of us around the world. So it was a big boost. People like myself, who've gone through most of their life realising everything we've been taught, or most of what we've been taught or told, is a complete and utter lie. And to find that there were initially thousands of other people like me, and then millions of us, all thinking something is badly wrong here, was a big boost in the late 90s and early 2000s. Now, what happened next is the cabal panicked and installed stooges, many to misdirect and some to add to the mix, called COINTELPRO, of which Alex Jones is a classic example of that. But around 2008, 2009, things started to change. Forum, and that was Disclosed TV. Being the observer I am, I recognised all the Israeli agents and I exposed them all on there. And, and I was teaching some of the other forum members how to spot them. Suddenly the whole site closed down and they said they would launch Disclosed 2, and it's coming soon and everyone will be added back in, except I wasn't. I knew it wouldn't. And so then I went back to researching again, and then the real big change happened. I attended my one and only conference, and everything after that conference changed badly. That was the Awaken Aware in Irvine, California, September 2011. All the main characters that appeared there all started changing narrative and appearance. And then what we saw on the internet was a rise of X this and X that, be it CIA, FBI, white hats. And in came former politicians, Simon Parkes and Stephen Greer, began to run the show. Again, another ex-CIA agent who was also close friends of the Clintons. Go figure. Project Camelot broke up, and Wilcock, along with initially Drake, Fulford and another CIA asset, Keenan, who was then followed by another ex-CIA asset, Robert David Steele, began to control the narrative on many of the topics that we had discussed on the internet. But what followed after that was a classic agency-driven program surrounding mainly the ET narrative. And a new story was fictionalized. And the reason it was fictionalized because the New Age bullshittery that was formulated in the 1880s as a program was starting to be torn apart on the internet. In came Corey and the Blue Chicken Cult to confuse, distract and sideline the narrative, whilst they stalled for time elsewhere. The reason they were stalling for time is they were losing control of the narrative. Remember, this is a war for the mind. Nibiru was coming economic crashes were coming, global pandemics were coming, World War III was coming, New World Order, false flag events, Chinese elders, classical accounts ran by all things Asian, but they were all being torn to shreds by the alternative media. So then they threw in a few more narratives like Flat Earth, and then in came the new cash looshing exercise called cryptocurrencies, along with wonder drugs, health machines, the list goes on. And it's all designed to distract you from reality and your own path towards the truth. Now, the key to all this is fairly simple, and this is kind of why people are in the alternative media. But the question to any person is, do you wish to stay in your learning bubble given to you by school and the mainstream media, or seek knowledge outside of the control-based system of learning and forge a path for yourself? This is the essence of the alternative media, their truth or our truth. Now, the path has and is still difficult to walk upon, but I think shows like this all have at some point produced some fantastic materials that have enriched the knowledge base of us all. The key is picking the pieces out of it. But others like Corey Goode, Sather, Kent Dunn, William Mount amongst others have offered us nothing but total bullshittery, fictional narratives. I think now we have a real base of an alternative media again, and I think it's time to increase our thinking capacity and its capabilities. I've noticed many are stuck in the now thinking and not the future with regards to possibilities or practicalities. And the classic example was the question I posed of the fictional, which may won't always be fictional, it'll be fact one day. What happens if the cabal step down at midnight tonight? What happens next? And almost 100% answered party time. And the next question is, what happens after that? And there was silence. That's what happens when you think in the now. How are you going to be able to manifest things which is now easier to do if you can't think in the future? You can only think of the now. We cannot hope to carry forward with that type of now thinking and expect changes and progression of our species. Thinking only in the now is begging for further control systems, because if you can't make future decisions for the people, they will make them for you. The same happened when I asked the question of what happens if someone taps you on the shoulder and you turn round and there's a 9-foot talking lizard that says hi. Again, it followed with silence on a previously busy chat forum for a total of 9.5 minutes. Got people thinking. Now, these are scenarios people must ponder on when projecting a different future. And the reason for the silence is people have forgotten to think for themselves. Look at all these people campaigning against Trump. Trump's no better or no worse than the previous goon we had, or the one before, or the one before that. But because mainstream media have told them to go out marching, off they go. We have to be better than that. We have to think on our feet, not just in the now, but forward. And we've been conditioned for them to think for us, or conditioned to think and exist in the moment and have forgotten to daydream. That conditioning box has to be broken down by all of us if we are going to make genuine progress. You have to envision a new way. How can we change this? How can we implement that? If this scenario happens, how would I react to it? You can't wait till the event, because you'll end up like a blubbering mess like most of the sleepers are. And when I say event, there's not a one-off event. There'll be many. We need an end to the linear thinking, which essentially has stopped on the line at the given moment in time, and then there's nothing beyond it. And onto lateral thinking, awareness, and open up to all possibilities, where genuine progress is only limited by your own lack of imagination. The same applies to improvements to life going forward. People demand this or that, like now or yesterday, without thinking what are the consequences of those changes. To develop an idea of your own, you have to do a balance sheet in your head, in essence, of the pros and cons of each action taken. Like free energy, most people's first thought is, oh great, no more paying for utility bills. Come on, be honest, I know it is. And that's fine. But what are the consequences? And that's when most people will go silent. They haven't thought of that. It's always the short term or the now benefit. But that way of thinking has to change for us all. Now the consequences are, who gets to have the free energy machines first? Is it a country? Is it a continent? A particular state? Is it homes, businesses, hospitals, government services? Who goes first? Who will lose their old paradigm jobs? Will some of these jobs be transferable? And if so, how many? And for how long? What will be the impact on society? Will it be the same system as now, as those who can afford the free energy machines will have it before the masses who may not be in a position to afford it now or even in the near future, depending on the cost of them? These are all the things all of us must consider when bringing about or demanding changes. What are the impacts now, the near future and way into the future, be it for the people and also for the planet? I think most people in America would vote to shut down the IRS. But you tell that to the people who work there, plus all the tens of thousands of accountants that would lose their jobs and businesses overnight. You think they'd be happy? You have to have something else in place before you shut anything down and phase in something new. But this takes time. And time, most people don't want to hear that. Like, let's happen yesterday. What I'm trying to do here with this piece is to end the government think tank groups, like the Council of Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, the 300 Club, the Bohemian Grove Group, all of which who decide for us and for us all to be the think tank groups for the future. Not just me or Kim, all of us. Some people often complain I don't get any say in matters, which is partially correct. But did you put forward your solutions if you had any to begin with? With no input from us, it left them to decide for us how to run the world. That's how it works. And we all know that hasn't worked out too well for any of us, has it? So to change that, we have to have an input from us all. And we tell them, you're not deciding for us. We're going to decide for ourselves. Now it's time we stood up for ourselves, decided our own paths for the collective and the planet, and time to put our thinking caps on for the future, not the now. Time to exercise our own personal responsibility and also free will choices. And else to fix it for us or create ideas for your approval. We have to co-create ideas, ideologies, actions accordingly. Then the real change unfolds not outside of us, but within. The wars, control systems, beliefs, gods, values were all external. That was the illusion. We in part all created that illusion. The whole of the war and everything else contained was always internal. External is 3D. Internal is whatever D level your imagination runs to. Remember that. The future will have no second prize. We thrive and prosper or wither and die as a failed experiment. It's up to us all to contribute to our own futures. And these next two songs will point that out. There ain't no second prize, and we are the last in line.